Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Do something a little different on this episode. Now, depending when you are listening to this, we are about to find out who 61-year-old Joan Vassos, the first ever Golden Bachelorette, is going to choose, or not choose for that matter, to be her Golden Bachelor, possibly for life. But it really doesn't matter when you hear this, because what I really want to talk with you about today is how the show highlighted some surprising lessons when dating in the second act. And whether you're getting back out there after a long marriage or relationship or haven't dated in a long time, dating after 40 years old has some challenges, let's face it, and some benefits too, which I really think the show highlights. And what I love about it is that there is finally focus and support around the fastest growing population of singles. I mean, I've been saying this for years. One of the hardest things for me when I got back out there to date, and this was so long ago, and this is before really any of the apps came about. There were only just a couple possibilities online and kind of the older, sites, as you will. And I was a single mom, and it was just overwhelming. I had this overwhelming sense of loneliness, thinking I was the only one. But it wasn't until I started meeting other singles around my age and older is when all of that changed. I don't know if I've ever shared this story on the podcast. I know I have in other arenas, like in my workshops, but one of the first women that I met, her name was Laura, and she was introduced to me by another mom. Now, when I had first moved to California, I was married until I wasn't. And all of a sudden, I had no support system. And certainly, I did not know what like a single life would even look like with two young kids. And when I was in this mommy group, a woman said that she knew of another single woman who was a parent, and would it be okay if she introduced us? Now, when she said this at the time, I remember having two reactions. One was kind of upset and a little like annoyed that she was like, "Oh, there's another one of you." Like it was some sort of disease. And then on the flip side, it was very polarizing. I actually secretly was so relieved. It's like, oh my gosh, there's another me. And so I accepted. And when the phone rang, and her name was Laura, I was expecting her call, and I did not expect my reaction. I picked up the phone and I said, "Is this Laura?" She says, "Hi, Kimmy, it's so nice to meet you." I said, "Hi, I'm a single mom too." And I burst into tears. I mean, I really didn't realize how the loneliness factor had affected me, how being amongst married folks and other people who seem to be happy caused this depression and really like a stifling feeling of not being able to like put myself out there. And so it, at that moment, she's like, "Well, look, I want to go out and I want to show you there's a whole life out there for you." Now, she had been single for quite some time, so I saw her as a veteran. And so I accepted and we made a date. Now, the date that we had consisted of us going to a bar. Now, at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, I am too old for this. I'm a mom, I'm older, I'm not going to a bar. And she was trying to tell me this is where a lot of the singles hang out. And it's not like a frat party. There's actually people our age at this bar. So I waited for her and I had to get a babysitter. I wasn't even thinking about what to wear or anything like that. So I threw on my black clothes yet again. I had bought that red dress for those of you who know my story, but of course it was just hanging in the closet because I hadn't really had an occasion to go anywhere yet. And So she rings the doorbell. I open the door, and there she was, this beautiful blonde, and the light was like shining behind her, creating a halo above her head. And she had this cute silky top with these tight little jeans and heels that were yay high. And she walked in like she meant it. And she says, "Hi, Kimmy, it's so nice to meet you." And she gives me this big old hug. And as she's hugging me, I take a glimpse in the mirror and I see how gorgeous she looks, all dressed up. And I see the frumpy me in the mirror wearing black. And she smelled like vanilla, and I did not. So I remember, I think I quickly went to the bathroom and sprayed some Febreze on me quickly. It's like, okay, note to self, dress the part. This is really my first lesson. And when we went into her car and we left the suburbs that was very dark, we as soon as the car went over the hill into where the city is, where now I live in Santa Monica, I saw sparkling lights. I said, "Oh, wow, there's life after dark." And so when we went to the bar, she pulls up. She has the valet take our car, and I see that there is a line wrapped around the building. And I looked at Laura and I said, look, I have my sitter for only so long. I'm not going to stand in this line. Again, I'm too old for this. And she just looks at me and she says, "Don't worry, just follow me." And we go to the front of the line, and she whispers something in the bouncer's ear, and we get whisked in. I to this day don't even know what she said, but she looked really cute doing it. And we walk into the bar, and I was amazed. There all the men were. I called them aliens. It looked like I was on a different planet, and everyone was laughing and having fun and dancing, and I could not believe my eyes. And so she says, "Well, let's find a seat." And so she plops us down right dead center in the bar, because I was going to take us to the corner of the room where I always go. First time I learned about positioning. She tells me that this is the best position to be in because we can be the epicenter of where all the singles are, and we had a good view of everyone. So we're talking, and she sees this really cute guy across the way. And he had to be 15 years our senior. Or, yeah, we were senior to him. You get the picture. He was younger. Okay. So I said, "Laura, he's really young. He's cute, but I mean, come on." And she says, "I don't care." And she does that 3-second rule that I teach all of you in my workshops. And before you know it, he was standing right next to her. I thought Laura was magical. And so, note to self, body language, huge, important. And, we went on to have a great night. And since that moment, I was really fortunate to have other people that I was introduced to, where I became kind of the Sex and the City gals amongst other ones. And we would go out and we would practice this thing called flirting, and we would really put ourselves out there. But we had to really be intentional and know that it wasn't too late to be flirty, to be fun, to gain our sexy confidence, to get our mojo back. I mean, all of these things that I really just thought that part of my life was over. So I share this story to inspire you as we talk about the Golden Bachelorette. I don't even know if I like the words golden years because it sounds kind of antiquated to me, but let's just call it in the second act. If you are dating later in life, this applies to you. I realized for myself I was not alone, and that helped me combat loneliness. It increased my sense of sexy confidence. And overall, it gave me this positive energy just around dating. Now, remember, I didn't have a lot of experience dating. I just had a couple of relationships. So I needed to practice the skill. And now, of course, not only do I have an abundance of singles in my social circle, but it drove my passion and desire to help other singles like you never feel alone and build confidence. Because the truth of the matter is, dating and flirting is a skill. Like I said, it can be learned. And that's why I love teaching it. That is why I do so many of these dating retreats and co ed workshops and in person intensives to help singles not just learn it. It's one thing to hear it on a podcast, it's another thing to experience it and practice it, especially when it comes to dating later in life. In fact, I've been teaching real golden bachelors and bachelorettes how to date with confidence for years. I mean, before the show, before even just focus on it was here. But here's the thing, I'm doing this episode for you to know that you do not have to win a spot on a show to experience this. You can do this in real life, IRL, as they say. On the Golden Bachelorette, we saw where confidence was built, worlds were expanded, fun was had, and dating in the second act is a chance not just to find love, but to love yourself in a whole new way. And I see this all the time in my retreats. I mean, the last retreat that I had, these women, they're irrecognizable. I mean, I keep getting, dinged in my WhatsApp channel where they're all hanging out still with all these wins and experiences. There's sticking power to this. So, the reason why this is important to talk about is because there are so many of you that have this strong desire to get out there later in life, but you're shut down or you're going through the motions, you're numbing out, you're not even like, maybe you're going on the apps, but are you really paying attention? Or are you just going through the motions saying, oh yeah, I'm dating, but are you really? And it's probably because of the lack of opportunity that you have not created yet for yourself, the lack of motivation, the lack of support, and the lack of knowledge around even what to do. I mean, when I work with my clients, I do something called data dating. It's very strategic, it's very intentional because you have to do that later in life. Gone are the days when you had the infrastructure of your social life in college or when you went to happy hour after work in your young 20s. Now, if you are in your young 20s and you're listening to this, guess what? This all still applies to you. I think putting yourself out there has become harder and harder. And I know what you're thinking. I'm too old to date, or there are just no good men or women left out there, or my town isn't conducive for opportunities to date, or all the men are narcissists or unavailable or assholes, or all the women are bitches and they're set in their ways or they're gold diggers. I mean, I could go on and on. I've heard it all. I've heard it all. But the truth is that dating is hard, period. And you can't change the people or even the modern dating world around you. I mean, it's impossible. But all you can do is look at what you can do differently. And this is where the power comes in. I want to really empower you with all this to get a different result. I see this all the time when I teach people to change their mindset, change their approach, and change their perspective. Because when you do that, you look at the world with a different lens. You're in the same world, but suddenly you see something different. I mean, I have clients leaving my retreats and then meeting people at the airports. Hey, that never happens to me, Kimmy. Oh, go figure. Did I have like a magic, doll? And like a lot of people say, oh, do you have a voodoo doll or do you have magic potion? No, this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with you, and you have the power to change it all. It's never too late, and dating in the second act is a chance not just to find love, but to love yourself in a whole new way. Okay, so I want to go over some surprising lessons that have been learned from the Golden Bachelorette. And these apply, I mean, this is evergreen. This is something that is always going to be there, and I think the show just highlighted it beautifully. So the first thing is dating is different from looking for a relationship. Now, this is really important because the show highlights the struggles that so many people face when going out there to date in the second act. And most of you, if you're over the age 40, experienced a very different type of dating when you were younger, where you dated one person at a time for the sake of seeing that person as your potential partner, your future partner, someone you would settle down with, grow with, build a family with. Later in life, that's not necessarily the case, nor should it be when you're first getting out there. I mean, in the show, you see men like Mark and Charles who never dated, trying to win Joan's heart, but in the end, and they all said it, they found happiness just bonding with the other dudes and feeling alive again. We heard this time and time again in every episode. I feel alive. I feel like I woke up. And that's such a crucial part of dating. Because really, the purpose is when you're first getting out there is just to learn how to date, especially if you are a relationship person and you never did it without expectation, without looking at what the outcome could be of a relationship, but just to be. And really, the notion is to start with low stake activities. You want to be casual. Maybe you're meeting new people, doing group activities, social events, doing the apps, not putting pressure on yourself, but just being the kid on the playground, as I always say, and learn how to, swing on the swing sets and go on the seesaw. And maybe then you see who you want to have a play date with after, but not to see who you're going to marry. You're too young in the process for this. So I'm putting you all back in the playground. And also, you need to be open to new experiences. Just stay open to different types of people, experiences. I talked to somebody yesterday who she's like, well, I don't really, I would definitely put myself out there. I would definitely date, but I just don't see anyone I would really care to talk to or date. And now that's the biggest mistake of all because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know who people know. You don't know who, when you're talking to that person, someone is watching you. This happens to me and my clients all the time. I remember there was a woman I taught how to be a barfly and this just social like butterfly when she was there. And there was no one at the bar that she really liked. And by the way, she was super introverted when I first met her. And then she became kind of the wing gal for everyone. Well, at the end of the night, this guy comes up to her and not in a creepy way, in a very nice way. And he says, I've been watching you and please don't take this the wrong way. I loved your energy and I just had to say hello. And that guy, she ended up dating. So you don't know what you don't know. And when you date without any kind of expectation, that's what's going to help you get to the end result, whatever that might be. And by the way, that might change over time. All right. So that is the first lesson. Dating is different from looking for a relationship. Number two, the importance of having fun when dating. Oh my God. This is probably the number one thing that I see like people experiencing when, whether I'm going out shopping and flirting with them or at the retreats. It's just so fun to see people come out of their shell and smile and laugh. I mean, the show did an excellent job seeing how having fun is the most important part of dating and finding yourself. I mean, these men are brave enough to get in front of an audience and embarrass themselves in a talent show, injure themselves during a kickball game, embrace the silliness of a senior themed prom, and even jump on stage to do their best impression of a Chippendales dancer, and they're like stripping and doing lap dances on Joan. And let's not forget about Jack doing cannonballs in the pool. I mean, the bachelors demonstrate having fun and embracing the moment, which was awesome to see. Having fun and being in a playful, childlike state is so important when dating and creating attraction. It was awesome to see all of the contestants and Joan laughing and breaking barriers to create a deeper connection through the act of playing. So I ask you, are you having fun? Are you having fun on dates? Are you having fun just interacting with people around you? Even as you go throughout the day at the market, like are you full of joy or are you full of sadness and feeling burnt out? Like, do your own self audit because if you're more serious in nature or slow to warm up or the conversations are dry, you know, that's when things fall short. And guess what? That feeds the depression, it feeds the negativity. So being playful and fun, when you really do it, it's the number one trait both men and women find attractive beyond success and intelligence, even. This has been researched, y'all. So infuse your interactions with a sense of play, spontaneity, excitement, intrigue, all of those things, and let your personality shine just with witty banter, humorous anecdotes, and playful gestures that keep the conversation light and enjoyable. Because at the end of the day, it's not about saying smart things back and forth or the facts that you know. It's about the fun feeling that someone has when they talk with you. And that's what's memorable and that's what's inviting and attractive. So when you radiate positivity and joy, you create an irresistible aura that just attracts others to you. You know, get out of your head, get out of the apps. Being more in your body and just smiling more, you know, all of those things really matter. All right. So have fun, people. Okay, number 3, the other lesson that was learned that identities and goals really do shift in late adulthood. You know, the show explores how people's identities can change after big life transitions like widowhood, retirement, divorce. And when you gain clarity and you're being more self aware, those are huge benefits for dating in the second act. Because here's the thing, you finally know what you want. With life experience comes clarity about your values, deal breakers, the qualities you seek in a partner. And also, you have hopefully greater emotional maturity, and you're likely to have stronger sense of self and emotional intelligence, which will help build healthier relationships in the long run. And the other thing is, you really don't have the traditional expectations and timelines than you did back in the day. You know, you notice like people on the show, a lot of them, they're just like, yeah, I just want to find like a travel partner. Joan says over and over again, I want to have fun. I want to keep having like adventure. Like this is something that's so repetitive in every episode for her. And so there's less focus on kind of the traditional timelines where, you know, you need to lock down and grow your life and grow a family and all of that stuff. So you can embrace relationships that fit your unique needs and preferences without the pressure of following, you know, what is supposed to be or the traditional timeline. And it's also your opportunity to really define love. Dating later in life allows you to redefine what love and partnership means for you at this stage. So you can focus on shared joy and just companionship and whatever that ends up being. It doesn't even have to be marriage. It could be a situationship. It could be a travel buddy. It can be whatever you want it to be. You can live in separate homes, you know. It's just it's up to the couple and that to me is a benefit. So really taking a look at and again, that was highlighted in the show, your identity and goals that you have now for yourself. Okay, number 4, the lesson, and this was big. I mean, we saw this in the Golden Bachelor too with the women, but I think a lot of people were shocked at how the men so need friendship and bonds. Now, I know this from working with so many of you men and doing a lot of group activities with you, whether it's in my retreat or workshop. But I think the rest of the world was very surprised to see this. It is apparent that men can struggle to find companionship and how lost they can feel without it. I think even more than women, because, you know, we women, it's normalized to find friendship and be with each other. A lot of guys, a lot of you I talk to on our free calls say, I don't have any single dudes to go out with. I don't, you know, all my friends are married. It was amazing to see how the men bonded and how crucial it is to have when you're single. You need to support each other through life's challenges, especially as you get older. I mean, the men on the Golden Bachelorette what I also loved so much too is that they really weren't competitive. I mean, there was some fun competition like during the bowling, especially when Chalk kind of like monopolized Joan's time. But they really supported more so each other. They really honored the friendship more than anything else. And they are not on the show for conquest. I mean, most of them really didn't have any game. Let's face it at all. Or boost their social media following, right? Like that wasn't their MO. A lot of, they're either the grandkids or the kids nominated them to be on the show. And I think that's part of the show's appeal. The genuine feelings the bachelors have for each other was particularly clear when you saw like Gary and Gil and Dan and Charles were sent home because, they were disappointed, but they were all just kind of hugging each other, saying, dudes, I'm going to miss you. And usually when participants leave the show, they're giving like a quick one-on-one interview, and jump into the limo and ride away. But by week 4, these men, they all bonded with words like brother, brotherhood, and using it freely to describe each other. And after the ceremony, the remaining men still on the show came out and said their goodbyes, and some were crying, some were laughing, and it was just a beautiful moment, in my opinion. These are just regular guys looking for love and making friends in the process, which is exactly what I see working with men in the real world. And this can happen to you too. And it is so important. All right. The fifth lesson is that they demonstrated a ton of resilience. Resilience is so important when dating, with the age range between 57 and 69, the men on the show had quite a bit of life experiences, right? I mean, of course, you're going to later in life, and some not that pleasant. I mean, there were plenty of divorces like Joan, several contestants were widowed. One bachelor, Bob, was even struck by lightning and died for 12 minutes. In fact, he might be coming on the show, FYI. And he had to be brought back to life by the paramedics and doctors. And I thought it was cute when Bob told Joan, like in the beginning, I'm here to see if lightning can strike twice. Right. And during the group prom date, too, in episode 2, Jonathan tells Joan about being the only person of color in his high school. And it was a very painful thing. Um, that was such a heartfelt episode. And he said that completely destroyed his ego. And Joan wanted to like recreate the prom effect for him. And it was so sweet when he had this like corrective experience around it. And then there was Charles, who grew up in rural China and came to the US with just 20 bucks in his pocket. He lost his wife and admitted to being shut down because of the sorrow and the sadness. And in the end, you see men overcoming all these core wounds who personify resilience. Resilience is such an important part of dating, and having the ability to not take things so personally, too, on top of it. So, when you don't have a lot of dating experience and you're dating later in life, and the first time you get ghosted or not asked back out on a second date, or the fading text hits you hard, this is probably one of the hardest lessons learned. I mean, I just worked with a client and I got her finally dating after years and years and years. And she's in her upper 60s and she was dating these two guys, and one ended up ghosting her and one ended up not working out. And she was devastated. But that's normal, right? Because it's almost like being a teenager again and kind of going back and learning how to overcome some of the resilience. Because as you build the resilience up, you end up not taking it so personally, and you realize there's other fish in the sea that are better and right for you. Because at the end of the day, the right person will be there for you. They will come along, and you'll say in the end, you're resilient when things don't work out and you say, whew, well, glad I didn't waste time on that one, or I dodged a bullet there. That's when you know you've grown. Okay. The sixth lesson is the power of vulnerability and taking risks later in life. Now you see a lot of shedding of tears on the show with heartfelt disclosure of the wounds and the pain. In the premiere, it was so I loved when we saw the videos from the family members encouraging their senior singles, and then the men are crying and Dan cries every time he was talking about his kids, and several men were crying on the show. And I think, again, this is a generation where we grew up that crying wasn't okay for men, that showing vulnerability was weak. And the show is really proving that being emotionally vulnerable does not make you weak. It actually creates a stronger bond. With not only with each other, but it's seen as something of strength. And it allowed all of them to experience a deeper connection with each other and Joan. I mean, some men even commented when Joan was crying how much more they felt for her and felt attracted to her. And with the grief that she shared, over her deceased husband, a lot of the men were relating to her. So I'm not saying go on a first date and cry your eyes out. The point of this lesson is to allow yourself to be open, to express yourself, to create emotional like intimacy with people, because as you get older later in life, guess what? Hurt happens. And every time you get hurt, a wall builds up and it gets thicker and thicker. And this is why a lot of times people don't find anybody, because it becomes your love shield. So that is actually lesson number 8. And it's really like, how do you navigate the trauma and the baggage and loss you might be experiencing this time of your life? I mean, again, just age wise, if you are over the age 40, you are going to experience some sort of loss and trauma. And Joan and many of the other bachelors on the show came out of the dark period of loss and grief. And you saw and heard many of them express sadness, guilt, confusion about whether they're even doing the right thing by being on the show. I mean, this caused many of them, including the final contestants like Chalk Guy, Pascal, Jordan, to put walls up and be more guarded and getting closer to Joan. And then Joan was doing the same thing. I see this all the time in real life. And when you date later, you have to have more experiences around trauma. I mean, this is just something that everybody has. Everyone has different situations, different trauma, loss. Finding compatibility with all of that can be really challenging. And you have to find a balance with the emotional drainage and juggling romance now with responsibilities of maybe you're still working, maybe kids, grandkids, and that all can be tough. So make sure that you have given yourself time to heal. Make sure that you have gotten some coaching or therapy around the implications of all that. It's never a good idea to just jump right into the next thing to numb the pain. I mean, I think that's what the danger is in some of these shows, is that, how many of these people have had any kind of healing that has occurred. Now, I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying, I'm bringing it to you listening. Have you had time to process your emotions and grieve the divorce, grieve the relationship you once had, or the dream of the relationship that you wanted? Maybe you're grieving the loss of a spouse. And reflect on the lessons you've learned. Reflect on, yourself in that process so that you can approach dating with clarity and dignity. It's really important to do that. And last but not least, actually, there's many other lessons, but I only have time for this last one. And of course, I'm going to talk about this one. It's gaining sexy confidence. And you can gain sexy confidence at any age. It was so fun to see the men dressed in their dating costumes, build their sense of sexy energy. The show really demonstrates when you dress with intention. I mean, those guys just looked amazing. I don't know who styled them, but they got cuter and cuter as each episode went on. And I love their like confident body language that, all of that became super attractive for Joan too. And as I hope you should know, I always offer these free calls to anyone who wants to chat about challenges they're having. And I realized that in these calls, there were also a lot of you who were saying, I don't feel that sexy and I'm not that confident. I'm feeling a little frumpy, like you don't have the spark or energy to date, wanting to find other singles to do things with, but none of you are having fun. Like it's kind of the same thing, but really all of this boils down to is the sexy confidence. And when I see the impact of what the Golden Bachelorette has, and Golden Bachelor for that matter, has had on the group of men and women on there, I mean, there's a tremendous benefit of regaining your mojo, being attractive, finding, just friendships and getting dressed up and feeling fabulous, which all comprise of feeling sexy and confident. And you don't have to have a private chef and stylist and planned vacations like you do on the show. Although I will say I do a lot of that for you. So if you are interested, contact me. But you can create that yourself. But you have to, again, you have to have the motivation to do that. Rebuild your confidence so that you know who you are separate from that relationship that you once had. Because a lot of times your identity gets wrapped up in the couplehood that you were in. And there takes a little bit of time to untangle that and figure out who you are. And sometimes it's just going back to basics, reconnecting with things that you used to do before, like your hobbies, your passions, your interests, and have this time to boost your self esteem. Take care of yourself, pamper yourself, have some compassion, do things that make you feel good. Because when you build yourself up and when you don't care anymore about the guy or the girl, and then you really start looking at you and being happy, that is when you'll attract the same kind of person. And it'll happen naturally. It won't feel so hard because you're just going to be a magnet that's going to create opportunities everywhere you go. So, I'd like to end actually with just some excerpts from real Golden Bachelorettes who just came out of my retreat just a couple weeks ago, and they're still having an impact on this. And I want to read this to you, not just to say, oh, well, they had to come to my retreat to experience it. It really, I hope, inspires you to know that you don't have to go on a show to create this, really having focus and motivation. But most of all, know that you deserve to have this. It is not too late. Like I have one woman, she said, since, we worked on that, all the things we did work on, I've been flirting with strangers more and more and smiling. As Kimmy says, you never know. I'm going to have to schedule an appointment with myself and get out there. I have no more excuses. I'm feeling more comfortable talking to men as well. I was at the piano bar and I met a guy named Steve. We talked for a bit and I was very comfortable doing so. Then I danced with another guy. Like these. So these are just two women, right? Another woman wrote, so tonight I went to a Halloween dance as Poison Ivy. A young man came up to me and flirted with me. I froze, said thank you, and let him walk away. Then my wing woman, see, she got a wing woman, asked me what's wrong with me. So I shook myself off, walked over, and asked if he would like to dance with me. He led me onto the dance floor and we danced, and I ended up dancing with two other men tonight. Progress. Here's another woman. Now, this woman is in her 70s and she looks amazing. I put on a new dress and heels, and last night I sat at the bar and talked to three men, all who approached me. I even used a flirty line. I wouldn't have done any of this without Kimmy and all of you. And it was fun. By the way, this was a woman who would never have done this in a million years. And she is the flirt queen now. Another woman wrote, I'm going out with a wing man girlfriend tomorrow night and we're wearing dresses. That never happens. And finally, this is the most exciting one. I'm really excited to tell you that I started dating someone that I used to work with when I got back from the retreat with my newfound sexy energy. So these are just a couple of many wins that people experience. As you can see, like from dating someone to putting on a dress to just getting asked out at a bar, success lies within you and what you are supposed to overcome to get to what you want, right? And when they find that their sexy confidence, it ultimately opens them up to finding more opportunities to attract love. And you too can experience this. And you don't have to be on a reality show to get it. You can find this IRL in real life. You just need a little direction, a little accountability, a little motivation, and a lot of intention to get there. So on the Golden Bachelorette, we saw there were confidence that was built, there were worlds that were expanded, fun that was had. Dating in the second act is a chance not just to find love, but to love yourself in a whole new way. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you are dating in the second act and you have no idea where to go or what to do or how to be, book a private call with me and we will map out a dating plan, just like a business plan, to get you motivated to get out there. Oh, and my next retreat, by the way, people have been asking, it's coming up in February. I don't have a lot of the details about it, but if you can believe it, I'm already half full. So all I will say is if you are interested, go to askkimmy.com for more info and we can chat. So the bottom line is it's never too late to find love. And remember, all of this it's working on you, right? It's working on you. And when you do that, that is working on your dating life and it will open a ton of possibilities. That's all for now.